It's partly the fact that he's done it in a way that is going to be damaging to the Labour Party at this time, but actually it's because of all the lies that he told at the time that he now confirms. Because you've got to remember what my job was. I was Director of Communications and Strategy. I was trying to hold the thing together. I was trying to build and lead a team of communicators. And not just McBride, but Charlie Whelan and others in the Gordon Brown operation made that job more difficult than it should have been. And I mean, I used to challenge Gordon about it. I know Ed Miliband used to challenge Gordon about it. And Gordon would say, oh, I don't know this is going on, I don't know that's going on. And there came a point when I said, well, look, if Whelan doesn't go, you better understand I'm going to go. And when McBride was on the scene, I was very, very clear with Gordon that I would have absolutely nothing to do with him on any level, because I knew what these people were like. And so I actually think they played, because of what he's now admitting to, I think they played quite a significant part in putting Labour out of power. And I ultimately...
Because of the internecine warfare.
Because, I mean, because the public were being fed by them this narrative the whole time. Blair was useless, Charles Clarke was useless, most of the ministers, anybody who was ever any good, they were actually useless. And I think we were a good government, we had very good ministers, we were trying to do really big things for the country. And I know you hate football analogies, but I said in my blog this morning, it was like being in a football team where on the pitch you had your own players going around kicking your star players. And that's why I'm still angry about it, because I think they've helped usher in a Conservative government, and if we'd stuck together, I know it's a big if we'd all stuck together, I think we'd still be there.
No, I think that's a reasonable point to make. After all, the Tories didn't win the last election.
Exactly.
But why were they doing that? Surely they were only doing that to undermine Mr. Blair and to promote their man, Mr. Brown.
Correct.
And surely, therefore, it's inconceivable that Mr. Brown didn't know what was going on.
Well, Gordon and I, as you know, despite everything, I always had a reasonably good relationship with Gordon, and I went back to help him and so forth. And I used to challenge him a lot about what Whelan was doing, about what McBride was up to and so forth. And Gordon would always say, I'll sort it, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. But the fact is, and I'll tell you the other thing that annoys me, Andrew, it's this sense that particularly the right-wing media push out, that there was a sense of equivalence. Well, Gordon had to have that because Tony Blair had Alastair Campbell and Peter Mandelson, and they were really, really terrible. And the thing is that people like Steve, who I've known for years and years and years and years, there's not a single journalist, with the very, very occasional exception when I lost my temper, and I've detailed them in my diaries, who would be able to tell you honestly that I ever briefed against ministers. I had a golden rule: I never, ever briefed against Labour people. We were presented as being the sort of, the shadow, the image of this.
People say you were the forerunner of all this.
Absolutely.
And you deny that.
Not only do I deny, I know it was not the case, because
Mr. McBride is not son of Campbell.
He certainly isn't. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I really do kind of despise what they did, because look, the whole spin thing, which Peter and I probably are most associated with. I remember once I wrote a piece, I think it was The Times, where I said I felt we were more spinned against than spinning. And I talked there about the journalists as spin doctors. But actually, we had, within the government, I used to operate a principle of maximum openness for maximum trust. Anybody could come to my morning meetings on one condition: that what was discussed there, that what was communicated from there, it stayed as part of that team. And it got to a point where I had to say to Gordon, I'm sorry, your people aren't coming, because I know where this stuff's going and I know where it's coming from.
Did you know at the time that Charles Clarke, John Reid, Ivan Lewis were being effectively destroyed from within the Labour government?
I certainly knew that they thought that, and I certainly knew...
John Reid spoke to me.
Absolutely, and I certainly knew journalists who were telling me that that was what was happening. Now, as you rightly say, ultimately, this is why I never buy this thing that you can blame bad leaders and the bad advisors and the rest of it. Ultimately, it's up to the leader.
You appoint these people.
Absolutely. And the one I've always said this about Gordon, I think he had unbelievable strengths, and actually, possibly in a different age, would have been an amazing Prime Minister. And I think he was a great Chancellor, and I think he handled the international crisis well. But he had a real flaw for this need for truly horrible people to be around him, doing truly horrible things in politics and giving him and the Labour Party and politics a bad name. And that's why I'm still angry about Damian McBride.